Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Paulo Dybala to Manchester United may sound very, very reactionary when you consider that he has only just scored a couple of goals in a Champions League quarter-final. However, he is a player that we've mentioned about as a Manchester United replacement for Zlatan for quite a long time. And would he fit in with what we would want to see at Manchester United? Well, very, very, very quickly, for those who've been watching Dybala and know about him and not just watched him tonight, you may well have picked up on it tonight as well. He's very much not an out-and-out striker. He can play there, but there are similarities with Antoine Griezmann, and I think that, for me, is where the similarities begin and end in relation to how suitable he would be for Manchester United. I think he's a very, very good player. I think, just turned 23. I think he's about 5'9". He's contracted till 2020. Juventus are desperate to get him down to a new contract. In fact, only a few days ago, there are meant to be a little bit of wranglings with this new contract with Juventus because they want to insert a very high buyout clause. But Dybala doesn't want a high buyout clause that will basically exclude him or put off clubs. Specifically, they rumoured to be Barcelona and Real Madrid from coming in for him. But Manchester United, can we sign another player from Juventus? They were left with a very bad taste in their mouth the way we got Pogba, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to let another of their best players come to Manchester United. However, Manchester United want Griezmann, and I think, for me, as much... I want to talk about Dybala in a moment because that's what it's all about. But as much as Dybala is a good player, I think if you're asking me, and I don't know what about you lot think, if it's Griezmann or Dybala, I would still take Griezmann, even though he's 3 years older. I just think he's a better player. But what I like about Dybala is that speed of movement, that ability to run at people, that clinical finishing, and again, that ability to defend and press from the front, really. He's been likened to people like Aguero, Tevez, both his countrymen of Argentina, but I think he's got more than both of those. I think he's got something very distinct. I think he's quicker than Tevez, but I think he's got the tenacity of Tevez and the ability to... I think he's actually better on the ball than Tevez in many ways. Maybe not as skillful, but maybe quite similar. His finishing, with his left foot especially, I don't think he's quite as a good a finisher as Aguero, but I think what he is, he's a combination of the two, that ability to run at people, that tenacity, that finishing ability, but I think when you get a combination of a player like that, you've got a better player than Tevez and Aguero potentially. Would he come to Manchester United is the big thing. Well, sometimes you've got to put your hand up and say, look, Real Madrid and Barcelona are probably going to be his preference, but we heard that about Pogba. They were his preference, and did they sign him? Because actually, when you look at Barcelona, they've got an issue. They've been beaten away from home by PSG, and they miraculously turned it around in the Nou Camp. They've been beaten comprehensively by Juventus tonight. And what two finishes they were from Dybala. Really, really clinical, not easy chances missed, clinical finishing, which is exactly why I want Griezmann at Manchester United. And exactly why I would consider this lad coming to Manchester United as well, because we need that sort of clinical finishing. But Barcelona, you would say Messi, Suarez, Neymar. Where would Dybala fit in? He'd be on the bench. But Barcelona have got problems. Despite having those three great players, they are getting trounced by a French team and now an Italian team. And they need to be better than that. So would they be looking to mix things up by signing Dybala? Potentially, but they're going to have to lose one of MSN, aren't they? Real Madrid. Ronaldo, Bale, Benzema, potentially they have a space for a striker, but they can't sign everybody. And this is where it becomes encouraging for Manchester United because, and I don't know whether people are starting to realise this, because this is part of the reason I wanted to do this video tonight. I want Manchester United to sign Griezmann. I want Griezmann to replace Rooney. I want Griezmann to be our new number 10 who can play any of the attacking positions. If Zlatan leaves, then we're going to need to sign another striker. And I think we've been linked with a number of strikers, but what really, really makes me get excited is that I've always wanted Aubameyang to come to Manchester United because I think the pace, the power, the skill, the finishing, he'd be the perfect player if Zlatan left because he's got the physicality and the height, but he's also got the pace to hit the flanks. We hear that Aubameyang will only go to Spain. He wants to go to Real Madrid. Well, Real Madrid can't sign Aubameyang, Dybala and Mbappe from Monaco. They can't. You could argue that they probably can only sign one if they're going to sign any of them. And again, for Barcelona, well, are they going to sign any when they've already got Suarez, Neymar and Messi again, they might only sign one. Which is where Manchester United comes in quite nicely, because if Zlatan leaves, we've got a number 9 spot for somebody, and it is Champions League dependent, I accept that. But we've got that number 9 spot free. So people can say, oh, we'll never sign Dybala, and I accept that it is difficult because of the Juventus issues we had last year, and they won't want us to do it again. But if we can't get Griezmann, I think Dybala is probably the next best thing in world football at the moment. That player who can play number 9, if he needs to, but he's better as a number 10 behind the number 9, and can also play either side of the striker, or even adapt as the sort of the attacking midfielder in a 3. Griezmann's perfect for that, but Dybala could do it as well. I think it's going to be a very interesting summer. It's going to be a very interesting summer anyway, and Manchester United need to take that first step of getting Champions League football, because if we get Champions League football, I don't think there'll be a summer like this next summer, because the World Cup will happen, you'll get your flash in your pan players, and the big players that are available now will be settled in at their new clubs and probably ungettable. I know a lot of us want Zlatan to stay, and I certainly do. I think I can see the merits of that. But if he goes, I think it just makes it very interesting, because I think Aubameyang will move this summer. I think Mbappe could well move this summer, and Dybala is there if people move. And even if we were to miss out on one of those players to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona, maybe then that opens up this whole thing I was talking about earlier, about Neymar and these constant rumours that he's coming to Manchester United, because maybe he's going to be the fall guy. I don't know. I think it's just a very, very interesting thing. And I think, people can moan and say, oh, we're never going to get Dybala. We're never going to get Aubameyang. We're never going to get Mbappe, this, that and the other. But there's only so many places that these players can go to. And I think it opens it up wider than we're even predicting. But we've got to take that first step, I agree. But I think Manchester United can sign anybody they like. And I think Griezmann will surely, hopefully, be the one that we get. But what if Zlatan does go? We're going to get somebody else. Are we going to get somebody else? I mean, I do think, if you're asking me what my ideal 2 from the names I've mentioned tonight would be Griezmann and Aubameyang, but Zlatan would have to go. I just think Aubameyang would rip it up in the Premier League, and I love his height with his pace as well. But the height is very important, and we will lose that if Zlatan leaves. Deadpool would prefer Rashford up front. Juventus won 3-0 Shadow X Beast. But I mentioned Dybala because, again, we're sort of tentatively looking at these transfers from the summer, and he is a player that keeps getting mentioned a lot by you on the live comments. And obviously, a lot of us will have been watching that game tonight, and seen what sort of a player he is. And, I openly accept that it probably won't happen, but I think he'd be absolutely perfect. I think he'd fit the Premier League like a glove. We talk about, Italians and whether people from Monaco could come and adapt to the Premier League, but look at Argentinian forwards who adapt to the Premier League. We've already mentioned 2, Aguero and Tevez, and I think from what I've seen of Dybala over this season and over the last few seasons, even when he was at Palermo, people were touting him. I just think he's got it. He's got that tenacious appetite and speed of movement. He bites into tackles when he needs to. He's got a really good finish. He's clinical. I think he'd be perfect for the Premier League. Whether he wants to come to the Premier League or not is another matter. But I'd certainly keep an eye on it. And I think Manchester United, if we get Champions League football, I just think we need to sort of not narrow our mind to, I think Griezmann will be the one that goes, but we don't know whether Zlatan's going to stay or not. And if he doesn't, then Manchester United can do anything. And I read some of the live comments and people are going, you'll never get Dybala. And I don't know whether a United fan or a Liverpool fan or a Chelsea fan, but you can never say never about Manchester United. You just can't. We were told you can't sign Pogba. You're not in the Champions League. He's one of the best midfielders in world football. He's never going to come to Manchester United. And he did. So we can do anything we want to do. But whether Juventus will want to do it again is a very good point, but player power is very important. And Vahan says Dybala already is world class. I think he will be one of the best players in the world in 2 years' time, and United should be thinking about that. But I think Griezmann could also become one of the best players in the world if he's not already, but certainly expand his status at Manchester United. But Griezmann could sign another contract at Atletico Madrid. I don't think he will, but if he does, then who are we going to sign if Griezmann doesn't? I mean, that's the relevancy of this video, really, is what if Griezmann decides to stay at Atletico Madrid? Who do we go for? Because there aren't that many people like him who really is the number 10, but can either play either side as well. And the player who knits things together and has got that clinical eye for a finish, but has also got that creative spark and can run at people. And to be honest, if you've watched enough of both, you'll know that Dybala's probably the closest thing there is to Griezmann in world football at the moment, who, if you sign him, is probably pretty much going to be a guaranteed success. There are other players out there who, you know, unknowns or potentially new players, but I mean, Patrick Okonomo has just said, Griezmann, if not Dybala, it's got to be Rodriguez. James Rodriguez. Well, you get James Rodriguez for about £30 million, but he's not Dybala and he's not Griezmann. He's not very fast to start. He's very left-footed. He's a bit more physical in relation to his build. Maybe, but I'd certainly be hoping we'd get him one of the other two, to be honest. But yeah, Griezmann will come marked as Mr. Cute. I sort of agree with you, and I think if you get Griezmann, you don't need to go looking for anybody else of a Griezmann fit because you've got that player. But I think it's going to be very exciting this summer, as I say. I think people are going, oh, we won't get Dybala, we won't get Mbappe, we won't get Aubameyang because they all want to go and play for Real Madrid. Well, Real Madrid can't sign all three of them. And if they do, they're going to have to lose somebody that we might fancy ourselves, whether it's a Ronaldo or a Bale. And the same works for Barcelona. They can't sign all three of them. And then Barcelona are in a worse situation because they can't really sign a Dybala or an Mbappe, because if they do, they can't give them first-team football without getting rid of one of those three up front, of which I'd take two. I wouldn't take Suarez if you paid me. But, you know, obviously we'd take Messi or Neymar. So the first, Manchester United got to take care of business. We've got to get Champions League football. But I was very impressed with Dybala tonight, and I think a lot of people were as well. But it's not a surprise for those who watch him regularly and know what he's all about. But I think what a lot of people didn't realise about Dybala, when I was reading around on Twitter especially, is that they're like, oh my God, I thought he was just a striker. Well, he can play as a striker, but he's got a hell of a lot more to his game than that. In fact, I don't think he's scored for Argentina yet. I think he's played 6 games. He's not scored, but he's doing really well for them. But that's not his game. Isn't to put the ball in the back of the net necessarily. He's a creator as well, which is exactly what Manchester United need. We need a Wayne Rooney replacement, and I know people say that Mkhitaryan and Mata can play that position, but Griezmann and Dybala, they've got that speed. They've got that speed with that creativity and finishing as well, and we do need that. I like Icardi, Luke McDermott. I've very nearly mentioned Icardi. I do like Icardi a lot. And you know what? He's probably the more realistic one. Are we linked to either? God knows. But I agree with CFC007. Icardi is very Cantona-esque. And I'd love us to sign Icardi. I've said that a few times. But whether we could or not, I don't know. It'd be an interesting question. Would I prefer Icardi over Dybala? I just think Icardi's just got something about him that is a bit Cantona-esque as well. But yeah, thank you. All right, thanks everybody for that. Just a very quick secondary video. I wanted to react to it as soon when we did the preview. If you've not watched the preview, I did that about an hour ago. Please do go and watch the preview. Some very interesting information about Anderlecht that you probably didn't realise. I won't ruin it for you, but it's right at the start of the video anyway. Back tomorrow night. But yeah, I wanted to do Dybala for a long time. Not literally, that'd be rude. But I wanted to cover Dybala for a long time. Dybala. It's not Diwali. I'm going all religious. I wanted to talk about him for a while, so it's a good opportunity to do it when he's just gone and done it in front of the whole world. But thanks everybody for watching. Back tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your evening and tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And I'm really looking forward to the Anderlecht game. Go and watch the preview. But give us your thoughts below. I mean, the point of the video, for people who haven't established it, Bernardo Silva is a good shout as well, says Matt Grease. Again, Bernardo Silva's another good player who could potentially play there as well. There's so many good players out there. Like Eric says, Belotti is another one who can play that position as well. Very, very good. Very, very good. As Eric says. So there's lots of options. Very, very exciting. Very exciting. So give us your thoughts below. But the point of the video really was not just because Dybala scored 2 goals, let's say we're signing Dybala. It was more like, well, we've heard this week that Atletico Madrid are pulling every trick they can to get Griezmann to sign a new contract. If they do, what alternatives there are there, because it's a certain type of player. Please drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, bottom right hand corner, live every night as you well know, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching. It is the United Stand. It is your channel. Get commented below if you're not live and give us your thoughts.